Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 321 of Pencils and Lipstick. And as you might have noticed from the title, we are not doing Craft and Connect today. We had a little bit of a scheduling issue. We will be back in September. So get ready for Craft and Connect in September. And if you want to know when we are going to have the Craft and Connect live, which will probably be end of October, you should get on my newsletter, which is the link is in the show notes below, or you can go to catcodwell.com um, and look around there and get on the newsletter. But we will be back in September with Craft and Connect. Becky is doing a lot of really fun things. If you want to be part of her cohort, I think there's a few spots left. She is doing just a small one this fall. So get that link in the show notes below. There might be one or two of the slots left. So you might want to hurry and get that if you want sort of this small group marketing help for the fall for your book. And that's coming just as like Christmas comes, right? So I would encourage you to learn more about marketing. Those are tips that are going to carry you through the next few years. It's not like it's just something that's relevant for the moment that you're in the class. Like it's money well invested. And talking about money well invested or not, if you guys don't know, there's been the whole like issue on Book Talk about a certain influencer asking for $1,000 to review books, and it has to be audiobook and all these different things. Like lots of people have lots of opinions, and most people have a problem with his tone of voice or whatever. So here's my thoughts and my advice always when people are asking me about marketing and book promotions and influencers. And I am not the only person who has thoughts, I guess. So definitely ask around. But there are book promotions, there are marketing promotions, there are influencers. You can pay all of them from a little bit of money to a lot of money. Your marketing, if it doesn't have a strategy, is probably not going to go anywhere. So even if you land a BookBub, you're going to pay a couple hundred, up to probably $800 for a BookBub ad. There's got to be strategy behind that. In order to get your money back, and in order to have the tailwind that people used to have. So the tailwind would be like you'd have a BookBub for 5 days, and people would still be buying your book about 2 weeks later because Amazon would still be promoting and pushing your book up there. That's not how it is anymore. And so you need to have strategy to it. You need to have, a promotion here and maybe a few days later there, maybe an influencer also talking about it and you talking about it, maybe some ads going. Like there's a lot more to it these days. And it is really easy to throw a lot of money at the wall and lose it. So, what you have to be thinking about is not whether an influencer's tone of voice is something that you like, but what is your return on the investment? It is well worth seeing how many followers that person has, what kind of books they have reviewed before, what kind of return the authors have gotten. So, how many audiobooks did they sell? How many books did they sell? If you put in $1,000, were people selling 2,000 ebooks for 99 cents? That's still not going to cover it because remember, you only get about 33 cents off of that 99 once you've paid Amazon. So something to consider, but it really does depend whether it's worth it to you. What genres does this person's followers like? Are you going to be able to afford that plus other things? Putting $1,000 into one person is probably not the best idea. It really depends on who that person is, right? So I mean, like if you could get Reese Witherspoon's book club for $1,000, that might be well worth it. And even then, like a horror writer might not find it worth their money, right? So you need to think about that. And with all of these posts now of people like, well, I'll read your book for free. Okay, you can do that, but that's not really the point of what this influencer is doing, right? Again, I don't care if you use him or not. I don't actually know even what his name is. But people reading your book for free and telling their 500 followers or maybe even 5,000 followers that don't care about books is, I mean, it's free, so worth a shot, right? Like I am one that has done quite a few things just to see if it's worth it. And you are going to have to test, but it's not really comparing apples to oranges if you understand what I'm saying. So, um I suggest that you definitely make a strategy out of it. You really sit down and understand data and um, marketing and promotions and ask people who they use and who they're all legitimate, most of them, but you have to see, you have to sort of get on their newsletter and see how much is worth your money. And I will say this, even still, written word media is probably the best one in which they have the best curated lists. They're pretty costly and it's still like a couple hundred. I think maybe you can get one off for like 70, but still it adds up. Um, but you can choose the wrong time or world news or national news can come and just completely derail your promotion and you don't get your money back on that. Okay. So I've used quite a few different ones over the years. We'll probably put together some thoughts on different promotions, Becky and I, or maybe I'll just do a solo episode on it. But the best way to keep your money is to not just throw it and not to, and I will say there are people that I have done my research, asked the questions, um, got the right answers, and yet it still wasn't a good return on my money. So there's that. Okay. So just be cautious. If you don't have $1,000, don't throw it. Don't throw it away on one influencer. So today I have an interview with Liberty Spiegel. She's a full-time working mom, also writing books with her husband. So if you want to learn about co-writing, especially with somebody who you are very close to or even intimate with, they write fantasy. You're just gonna have a really great time listening to her. I think it's always good to listen to how people get their writing done, how life has impacted them and they've still gotten writing done, and the areas that they are moving into. She has moved from seeking traditionally published going into indie published, so you might want to hear like her reasonings for that. But I think that you're really going to enjoy this interview. If you want to know more about Liberty, she has a Substack called libertyheart.substack.com. I will have the links in the show notes below. You'll also be able to find her books in the links in the show notes below. Before we get into the interview, remember to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. It really helps everyone. If you ever want to see me or the interviewees, you can go to Pencils and Lipstick on YouTube and you can watch us. There's just like less intro music on the YouTube video there, but all the same sort of show notes and everything is over there as well. But please, like if you like the interviewees, leave a little comment or review. It's really nice for them to hear that. And again, if you want to be on the show or want somebody or want me to contact somebody, you can go to my contact page on katcaldwell.com and you can fill it out there. But without further ado, let's get into the interview. All right, today I am here with Liberty. She's a sci-fi writer, and we've finally hit the record button. We're going to actually record our conversation, but welcome to Pencils and Lipstick, Liberty.
Thank you for having me, Kat. It's wonderful to be here.
Thanks. So let's talk a little bit. You already have like 13 or plus books out. You're quite prolific.
I've kind of lost track.
You're at that point. Okay.
Yeah, I can't decide if the anthology that my mastermind group put out last year counts or not.
I
So
feel like it
13,
counts.
13, 14, something like that
Yeah,
right
something
now.
like that. All right. So how long have you been writing or publishing books, I guess?
So publishing, I published my first book in 2014.
Oh, you're a veteran.
Yeah. I guess a veteran. But I started writing probably when I was 13 or 14. I read a ton of Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys, and it was at that time in the 90s when they were putting out a new book like every week. Felt like every week, but it was probably like every month. And it honestly wasn't fast enough for me. So I started writing
Yeah.
Nancy Drew and Hardy Boy fan fiction back then, and then pivoted into writing my own stories.
Look
And
at
then
you. If only we had had the internet back then, we could have been
I
famous at
we
14.
did have we did have internet. At least we did in my house. But yeah, it was like the days of the, message boards and
Yeah.
AOL Messenger and
Dee,
all
dee,
that
dee.
fun stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got mail, but
And it
uh,
took forever. And you actually had to like I was listening to a comedian the other day. It was like, it is so difficult to talk to kids who were born after 2010 of like, okay, so the internet came on a disc.
hmm
And
hmm
everyone's like, what? You're like,
yeah.
yeah, so your computer had like a box where you would, and this little shelf would come out and you put the disc in. It seems absurd now, like
Uh-huh.
what we
Yeah,
lived through. And it's just
I,
like,
I know. Yeah.
like,
And it's
like
like
you
if you
would send
didn't,
a message and then go get some water.
yeah, yeah, because it might take that long just to leave your computer. So,
Oh my goodness. And now if
yeah.
things don't go lightning speed, we all get frustrated.
Oh, I
It's
know. I know.
what
So,
was there was a fanfic site in the early 2000s. I
oh,
feel like it's almost still up.
it probably is. I
It
don't
starts with a
remember.
W or something.
I don't know offhand. I got out of fan fiction.
I mean, it wasn't really
Probably.
even, I don't know
Yeah.
if we knew that that's what it was called. I learned that
Right.
way later when you're just like, I'm just trying to
Oh, yeah.
rewrite a story because I'm bored.
Mhm. Right, right. Yeah. I don't know, but I know there's still quite a few active communities out there. I just am not involved in them. I know people
Yeah.
that are. It's like, okay, not really my thing now. I'm too busy writing other stuff, or unfortunately, half the time I'm using my writing time to write stuff for my D&D campaigns. But yeah, that's another story altogether. But yeah,
When
I
did you
started.
when did
Go
you
ahead.
start playing D&D? Was that in the 90s?
No, actually, I'm really kind of a newbie.
Okay.
Um, so I started tail end of 2019. Um,
Oh,
my now husband kept saying, "Oh, I think you'd really enjoy doing this." We were good friends at the time, and um, he finally dragged me into playing a game with one of our other friends, and then three other guys, and two of those guys are now good friends. And we've just been playing together. And there's six or seven of us in our core group, and we play every Friday and Saturday.
fine.
We've got like four games going on right now.
Is
So,
it like one big story? Do you keep going
yeah,
until the story can't end? Like it does it ever
yeah.
end?
Yeah, so we actually just wrapped up a nearly 6 year campaign that was set in the Star Wars universe. We finished that at Thanksgiving this last year. And we were all
How do you
playing.
decide when it's done? I've never played, so I don't know.
So it's kind of like when you're writing a novel, the story arc just finishes and you wrap up whatever story you're telling. Now, there are campaigns that can go on for decades. My husband was in a game back in the 90s that is apparently still going.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah,
That's so
and
fun.
the people that are playing it now are playing you like the initial characters, great great grandchildren or
Oh,
something
that's so
crazy
funny.
like that. But yeah, it really kind of depends on who's running the game because like I just started my first campaign. We just did our third session last Saturday, and I know it's going to be a short game. I have a really clear arc on where the story is going. But sometimes it can take longer. Like our Star Wars game lasted over 200 sessions because it was nearly 6 years long. So it really kind of just depends. But most of them,
Interesting.
they have an endpoint. So.
Okay. So do people are they just going off of their natural instinct for story when they're playing D&D? Like just
Some
because do not everyone knows like story arc, like the terminology that we use.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends because you can buy modules and it kind of has the like
Oh, okay.
story, here's what to do with session one, here's what to do with session two, that sort of thing. Um, but if you're home brewing it is what we call it when it's from your own head. Yeah, you're kind of following your own natural instincts and letting the players direct the story to some degree or another. I mean, you definitely want to head them in a certain direction because you don't want to get completely off the beaten path. But yeah, a lot of it is determined by dice rolls. So, like, if somebody makes a very bad investigation check, they may not get as much information as you would have hoped. So,
So it doesn't
but
always go how you as the mastermind wanted to go.
no, not at
Oh,
all.
interesting. That
So
must make it fun though. Like that is the
it
part of the fun,
does.
right?
It does. I mean,
Interesting.
we laugh so much, so it's so much
That's the
fun.
best thing. So
Yeah.
when you said before we started recording, you don't write lit RPG, and lit
Hmm.
RPG comes kind of from the gaming world, right? Like the people who have
Yeah.
written out their
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah. So lit RPG, and I haven't really read much of it, but I am familiar enough with it that what it is it's where the main character of the book is basically plopped into a game, and te some of them they know they're in a gaming world, some of them they're not, but they basically go through a lot of the same mechanics as you would playing a video game or even in a role-playing game like Dungeons and Dragons. Um, so like I play a lot of Division 2, which is pretty foul and uh, but you have to go through a leveling system. But it'd be like dropping them into the middle of Washington, D.C. and having to fight all the bad guys and, stop the virus that's, going along and stuff. And it told in a book format. So yeah.
Right,
But
right,
I
right.
don't
Yeah.
yeah, I don't write it, but it sounds like a lot of fun. So I might eventually one day.
Sounds, I mean, I was interviewing one man a couple of years ago actually, and he got real like he has the all the instructions, like it's exactly like they are playing the game. And I was like, that's a lot. I mean, it's just not my genre. So it's like, but you better know, it sounded to me like if you're gonna dabble in lit RPG, you better know how the games
Hmm.
work. You
Yeah.
can't just like try it out.
Yeah, I've got a friend in our mastermind group, and he's big into the lit RPG stuff. And I think he's just now starting to write one.
Hmm.
He found an idea that he wants to work through, and so we're all kind of excited to see what he does
Yeah,
because he's
that's
he's one of the babies in the group. He's the youngest guy in our group at 40. So
those people turning 40, they're such babies.
yeah. I mean,
That's what,
I'm the youngest woman in our group, and all three of us are within like 4 months of each other.
yeah, that's what I used to be the youngest in lots of groups. And now I'm like,
Mhm.
that's not even possible anymore. You
Yeah,
just get to a
yeah,
certain age where you're like, yeah, that's not.
yeah.
So you write sci-fi. Has that always been kind of your first love?
Um, yes and no. I grew up on Star Trek. My dad was letting me watch Star Trek: The Next Generation when it first came out when I was like 5, by his side. And so I remember watching, Data and Geordi and Worf and Captain Picard. And later on, when I was a teenager, I got into Star Trek Voyager, but never really thought that I would write that.
Mm,
I honestly loved mystery more than that. And I would say most of my books have some element of mystery. Some are like hardcore. Like my main protagonist in my Darby Shaw Chronicles is a superhuman police detective.
okay.
It's set in Kansas City, and she's essentially a necromancer. I'd never call her that, but she has the ability to resuscitate murder victims when she comes in contact with both victim and killer. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I enjoy the series a lot.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, so it puts a little bit of a time crunch on things because her powers
Yeah.
only work for so long. But
So if she can
um,
find the killer, she can resuscitate the
the
victim.
victim, yeah,
That, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a great way to put some tension into the story and force you as a writer to
Mm.
like move it faster, right?
Yeah, yeah. Especially, I can put like different, like the how serious were the injuries, how old was the victim, and
Mm,
how old was the killer. That I can play with the timing a lot and stuff.
yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, I never really thought I would go science fiction, and then I was at my ex-husband's in parents' house when we were still married, and his grandmother made this weird comment one time, and I was in listening distance, but it was directed at my now ex-husband, and it was like, so does Liberty write that, you know, science fiction stuff? And it was said in such a way that it was like really derogatory.
Mm.
And it's like I wasn't writing it at the time. It was all strict mystery, nothing like that. And it's like it almost gave me this itch to just be like, I might not be doing it now, but now I'm going to
Watch
because
me
obviously,
tomorrow.
yeah, pretty much. So, so it's one of those things where I absolutely love having a little more freedom in the world
Yeah.
to play with and setting some of my own rules.
Yeah.
So while I borrow a lot from like police procedurals and stuff, it's also really fun to say, okay, I want hover cars. We basically are in present day, you know, Kansas City, but I'm going to put a hover car in here because
Yeah,
this
because
sounds
I want
fun.
it. I
So,
love that. Well, so the Darcy, is it Darcy or
Darby Shaw.
Darby? Darby Shaw,
Darby.
are those technically urban fantasy then? They're not sci-fi?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would classify them as urban fantasy. I kind of say one part Harry Dresden, one part Eve Dallas from JD Robb, and then a little bit of The Incredibles thrown in just for fun.
Nice. You
So,
gotta have
uh,
fun.
yeah, yeah. So, but they're a lot of fun to write. I've been writing that series since 2014. I'm hoping to actually wrap it up here soon, but I'm
Really? You
thinking
wanted to
probably
finish?
at least for a while so I can put some more effort into some other projects I want to get to. So I'm I'm working on getting the sixth full length book out. I've got other short stories and stuff, but I'm working on getting number six out probably by this time next year. Um, and I'm hoping to wrap it up by like nine or 10 because I just need a mental break from that particular part of the world. So,
Yeah, yeah. You never know, like when you start in 2014,
hmm
you think like
yeah.
we never, at least I never think like, how far into the future am I going to take this
hmm
project? You just like, I have an
Right.
idea.
Right. Well, like when I finally published the first story in 2014, but I wrote it initially when I was pregnant with my youngest, and
Mm,
that was in 2010. So it's like I've had, you know, a
right.
15, you know, almost 20-year relationship with this character, and it's like I love her, but I need to go talk to these other characters over
Yeah.
here, you know, because they want some
Because
access to me too.
exactly, they won't leave me alone. I need them out of
Exactly.
my head.
Yes,
So
very
I can go.
much.
Well, and I mean, as a mom and you're working too, like
hmm
it's finding time. Like
hmm
okay, I could probably if I could find 2 months where I could just sit,
hmm
somebody would bring me food. It would be like almost like prison. Just put me in a room. Somebody bring me food. But then at the same time, I always think like, like the other day, probably last week, I thought of something that will make a book I'm working on better. I was like, well, I'm
hmm
not sure I would have thought of that if I wasn't running around trying to grab that kid and get the dog on the walk. And,
hmm
so you
Right?
just, I mean, it kind of comes when it comes, but
It does.
time is always my gripe. Like, I just think,
hmm Yeah, I'll get home from work and I typically get home by about 2 in the afternoon
but
because
you've
of the
been up
nature of
since 4. So
Yeah, I have been up since 4 and I get home and it's like, you know, I might take a little break or play a video game for, you know, 20, 30 minutes and then I'll stare at my computer and be like, can I push some editing out? Can I do some marketing? You know, something like
yeah,
that. And do what I can, but it doesn't always happen, but I try. So,
you try. Yeah. I mean, that's all that we can do. So when you published in 2014, did you go straight to indie publish or did you do traditional?
I did do indie. So, um, I have a kind of weird path to how I came to be an indie author. I didn't want to be an indie author. Um, I was pretty adamant. I was kind of watching the development from about 2007 to 2013-ish of the indie author sphere and was just like, this is vanity press, essentially what I thought of it. And I
Mhm.
was doing the
Well,
whole
that's what they
query.
told us. you know.
It really was. It's what was in Writer's Digest at the time and all of the writer magazines. There weren't really podcasts yet, but they were starting to come out, you know, 2012, 2013.
Mhm.
But I did the whole query the agent thing and was following agents on Twitter that I really would have loved to sign with. I so what happened was my son was born in 2010 and he had health issues. We
Mhm.
didn't know what it was and had to go through all kinds of tests and stuff and found out he has a rare genetic condition called Shwachman-Diamond syndrome, which is related to cystic fibrosis.
Oof.
So, yeah, it's pretty rough. It doesn't affect the lungs like cystic fibrosis does, but it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I'm dumped into being, this rare disease mom. Didn't
Mhm.
want to be a rare disease mom, but that's how life ended up. God has a sense of humor. So I'm still trying to write and everything. I had just developed Darby Shaw when I was pregnant with him and was like, I think that I can get this story out to um, be published somewhere.
Mhm.
And um, so with Shwachman-Diamond syndrome, one thing that they are very prone to, in fact, we've got an adult now with the disease that's going through treatment for it. They're prone to leukemia.
Oh,
The thing,
geez.
and the thing is that if they don't catch it early and it actually develops to leukemia, you might be able to treat the leukemia, but the treatment will kill the person.
Mm.
So you try to catch it early before it actually
So you
develops.
have to constantly be checking.
Yeah. So
Wow.
when he was uh 18 months old, he had his first bone marrow biopsy to check for this. And I am
Oh,
getting to
man.
my yeah, I am getting to my point on this, I promise. But
No, but that's
eight,
a lot. Like,
yeah.
and that just sucks as a mom too, because you got to watch them suffer and you just can't
Mhm.
do much other than
Yeah.
hold them.
Yeah, and he was I mean it's a pretty simple procedure. You're unconscious. They
Yeah,
draw a
but
needle
still.
from the big bone in the hip and
Right.
then they come out and they're usually pretty happy afterward. It's just like a big puncture. But at 18 months old, they're like there's something weird here. We want to see him back in 6 months. Normally it's an every year thing. We never got to an every year thing for him. 6 months later, they come back and they're like he needs a bone marrow biopsy or a bone marrow transplant.
Oh,
And
geez.
so he had just turned 2. We lived in Kansas City, and the um, experts in the disease were in Seattle. So um, we had good people at Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City, but we decided we wanted a second opinion. So we went ahead and took him up to Seattle. He was like 26 months old at the time. And we come back from Seattle and they're like, yeah, he definitely needs a bone marrow transplant. And we have to decide, do we do it in Seattle? Do we do it in Kansas City?
Okay.
Well, in the middle of this, I had sent a submission off to, I think it was an agent, but it may have actually been a small publisher. We love your book, but it's too dark for us.
Oh, you're like, yeah, well, my
Um,
life right now is
yeah,
pretty
exactly.
dark.
So it's like, it gave me just enough hope right in the middle of all this because it literally came in like when I was in Seattle on
Mm.
this, second opinion trip. And it gave me just a little bit of hope. And, we made the decision. I'm going to take him to Seattle and do this solo because my ex-husband, my now ex-husband, had to stay at home with our older child. Um, and so I went to Seattle, and it's like one of the things that I decided is, I was good friends with KM Wyland at the time, still friends with her, just different lives and stuff. But,
Yeah.
she was already doing the indie author thing. And I'm like, I really want to learn more. I'm going to have all this time where I'm sitting in a freaking hospital and I'm not going to have hardly anything to do. So I'm going to listen to every podcast I can because podcasting was still relatively new, but
There were a
smartphones were a
lot of,
thing
yeah.
finally.
Yeah.
So it's like I can sit here and listen to podcasts and learn about stuff. So I started listening to Joanna Penn, and I started listening to the self-publishing podcast. And I
Hmm.
think there was a couple of others. I think Thomas Umstattd was an early one as well.
Joanna
In the
Penn.
Yeah. So there was like three or four that I was
Yeah.
regularly listening to, and then there would be like a new one pop up. And this is like I spent 6 months in Seattle, and by the
Wow.
time I came back, I was like, I'm I'm going indie. I'm like I I was convinced. I felt like I had all the tools. It was still so relatively new at that
Hmm.
time that um I felt like I could do this fairly easily. So I fast forward, I was like trying to figure out the whole ISBN thing. And like, I think Valentine's Day, the following year, 2014, I was griping on Facebook. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, but I need an ISBN and these Bowker costs are ridiculous and I don't know what to do because I don't think Amazon was quite doing their own ISBNs quite yet at that point. I can't remember, but I had a friend who, she's another author and an editor. She's like, I live in New Zealand. We get free ISBNs, and I have my own publishing house. Why don't you send me your book and we'll see if we can work together? I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Save you $110,
yeah,
basically.
pretty much. So she said, I sent it to her. We worked on doing the cover together, and then she kind of redid how she wanted to structure her publishing company. Basically said, I'll give you the ISBN, you publish everything under your do it yourself. I'm like, cool. So it was like just a little over a year after my son's bone marrow transplants, which by the way, he's almost 16 now. In fact, I think by the time this goes out, he will be 16. He's doing great.
Good.
But I'm we took a trip to go to a rare disease camp in Maine. And so we flew into Boston, took a train from Boston to Maine, and on the train trip up to Maine, I published my first book.
Nice.
So, so it was kind of a weird way of how I came about being an indie author, but I think it's
Yeah.
kind of a cool story, a
Yes,
little
I think
unique.
so too. I think so too.
Uh,
And honestly, you get to do it at your own pace, which at that
mhm,
point in your life, I can just imagine the stress that might have been added if you had a deadline, and the
mhm.
traditional publisher needs this from you. And
Yeah.
and honestly, with all the like they're still running a company and they have no problem dropping, so like that would have been
Hmm.
so disappointing to get something and then they say, well, never
Right.
mind, contact us later. Like it would just have added, one
So
thing on
much
top of the
stress.
other.
Yeah.
And it honestly, by 2014, I think that was around the time that I too came around, was like, okay, this no longer looks the same as Vanity Press. This looks like
Hmm.
us taking control of
Right.
our authorship. And I kept getting rejections or just like that. We like
Hmm.
your book, but, and I mean,
Hmm.
that is the majority of the book world, you know?
Yeah, it really is.
It's unfortunate. I mean, they can
Hmm.
only they can only market so many, obviously. They can only do so many things.
Right.
Um, and yeah, they usually have a kind of brand of like maybe they wanted more cozy mystery,
Hmm.
but do you want to change that for them or
Hmm.
do you want to keep your story
Right.
the way that you want it? These are all the
Yeah.
questions that you have to answer. So, how
Yeah.
was it? Were you pleased with the results in 2014? Was it easy
Yeah.
in the mystery world? Like, did people find
Um,
it?
yeah, I mean, I've never done a wonderful job at marketing, but the space was still fresh enough and people were still discovering indie publishing and indie authors that yeah, I did pretty well for a while. And then Amazon ads came out and I actually, had a few decent months and, life happened and it let it get away from me. And so it hasn't been as good as I would love
Well,
right now.
everything changed, I
Um,
feel like, at COVID. So
oh
like
yeah, definitely.
whatever
And
whatever we knew before COVID is
mhm.
not the same now.
Yeah, and like I redid my covers for Darby's books right around COVID, and I thought I had a great concept, and I thought I was working with a good cover artist, and I had so much going on during COVID because literally. 7 days into lockdown, my life completely fell apart and
Mm.
was started the process of divorce and yada yada yada. Not really important now, but I was in the middle of a bunch of book launches. I released one, two, three, four, five, I think five titles from January to August of 2020
Oh my
and
goodness.
was in the middle of rebranding everything in the middle of getting a divorce
Yeah,
and
life. Oh my
COVID and
gosh.
everything. So it's like I was ready to, anybody who crossed me, I was ready to just, nope, you're done.
Don't talk to
But
me.
yeah, pretty much. But I rebranded the books and the artist I used, I wasn't terribly pleased with her, and we've since parted ways. But in the last week or so, I've um, pretty much got a contract to get all of them rebranded again to be more traditional
Oh,
urban
again.
fantasy covers because
Okay.
I honestly feel like the covers seriously hurt my sales.
I'm
So,
looking. So these new ones with the woman in the front.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
those are the newer ones. I had silhouettes that I had actually done myself on the previous editions, and they were better. And I actually was talking with my new cover artist, and she did the cover for my husband's and my co-written book, and also for the anthology for our mastermind group. And she's like, "Yeah, I think we can do better than this." I'm like, "Please do." So,
That's one of the problems though, is when I my husband is not in this world, and so I'm trying to
hmm
always tell him of like, you have to take a chance on people
hmm
because you just have to. And then sometimes it doesn't work, but it's like, at what point do you pull out? Like, after,
hmm
when you see it and you're like, well, gosh, I already put a down payment and
hmm
technically I have to still pay them. And if I don't like it, like, it's a
Yeah.
really hard. And then eventually I feel like the emotion leaves and the realistic business
hmm
comes in, and you go, okay, never mind. I
hmm
need to change this
Yeah.
again. And I have to do it
Yeah.
again.
Again, yeah. So yeah, I ran the more recent covers through one of Thomas Umstadt's patron tools, probably now 3 or 4 months ago, and it's like, yeah, this was not the best cover. I kind of blocked out half of what it said because it's like, oh gosh, this is traumatic. But um,
It's
yeah,
just
it
one
was.
of those things. I've changed covers like 3 times on one of them.
hmm
And I think the best advice for anyone, and you learn as you go.
hmm
So like, the thing is, in 2014 it didn't matter. It
Right.
literally
It
didn't
really didn't.
matter. And I would say, so my husband is Spanish and we lived in Europe for 10 years. In Europe, covers were like, I don't even know if I have an example. They were plain. They were boring. They were
hmm
monocolor, maybe a line, just the
Yep.
title. You had no idea what genre it was. You really had to read the blurb. Like,
Right.
so people forget. Like, we forget now that we have like painted, sides,
hmm Yeah,
pages, and
I know.
they're all like glittery. Like, look at this one. This is glittery. And like,
Uh-huh.
there's all this stuff. People forget how it didn't matter before.
hmm
So now you have to come up with what, 600 or plus dollars to
Oh yeah.
recover.
Yeah. For a series that has 9 books in it right now.
Yeah. And
So
it matters. So
it
that's,
does matter. It
it
does
adds
matter.
another
So
thing to it. So it's like,
yeah.
okay. And when is the trend going to change? Like, at what point do I have to do this
Yeah.
again? Right.
Yeah. I mean,
It's,
I feel like at least urban fantasy has been pretty static with what
oh,
their
that's
genre
good.
expectations are. Um, I mean, you look at the covers for Harry Dresden books, or my one of my favorites is Patricia Briggs's Mercy Thompson series. Uh, they've got their own style, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just to readily identify the series, but they're good, and they
Mm-hmm.
haven't really changed the style overall. And I think Patricia Briggs just had the 20th anniversary of Moon Called
Oh, that's
in the
good.
last this
Well, that's
month.
good to
So
know.
it's like they've been using the same style for 20 years, and
Ugh.
some of the indie
You're,
authors, they do the
that's
glowy
lucky.
hands thing
Yeah.
and stuff. It's like, I don't really know if I want that, but we can figure it out.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. A lot of times I
Mm-hmm.
work with a lot of authors helping them launch, and so many times um the cover is just no good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you really, as an author, you have to really close your eyes and come to it as like, if I was a reader,
Mm-hmm.
would I like this cover? Like, it
Yeah.
really doesn't matter if your grandson did it or your neighbor. Like,
Mm-hmm.
would I pick this up? And you have to be really unemotional about it. It is,
Yeah.
but I mean, in the romance world, there are people who have different covers for every country, for
Mm-hmm.
every like, it's just crazy. Like
I can't imagine
they
doing
have
that.
invested so many. Now, the other question, what I don't know the answer to is it monetarily worth it, or are they just doing something
Yeah.
because they're chasing a shiny penny? I don't know.
I
So
mean, I have heard that, different cultures have different expectations. So, like, you might have, British covers for the same title, and they might change it to have, you in color, but,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
the covers are different because they have different expectations.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I don't
And
know.
well, there's only so much we can do.
Hmm.
But what was the series or the book that you brought out as a Kickstarter? Was it this the Darby
No,
series?
so it is Wave of Disruption. It was co-written with my husband.
Oh, that was the whole project. Oh my goodness. So
Hmm.
you wrote
Yeah.
with your husband
I
and
wrote
you
with
did a
my
coach.
husband. Yeah. So, and this is actually Wave of Disruption. It actually was a
Oh, I like
semifinalist
that cover.
for the cover itself. Um, our artist, Jeneth Lee, did an amazing job. But we made the Realm Awards semifinalists. The finalists were announced yesterday, and sadly we didn't make it. But her other book that she had in the semifinals actually did make it, so I'm
Oh,
happy for her.
cool. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was thrilled. She actually said that she was stretched as an artist to do our cover, so I was like, that's
Really?
actually, yeah, that's actually really cool.
I'm looking at, I mean, it's a really good cover.
And we were super proud of it when she got it to us and everything. But yeah, so we did a Kickstarter for that last year. Honestly, I think we set our expectations a little too low. We did not. We lost money on it when I sent my stuff over to our CPA for taxes. We definitely lost money on it,
So
but it was
you
a great
came out with
experience.
one book on
Yeah, we came
Kickstarter?
out. Yeah, we did the one book. So it's co-written with my husband Josh. And we ran the Kickstarter, I think July and August of last year. It was like a 3 weeks. We had just come off of doing a Kickstarter with our mastermind group for our anthology. We're actually in the process of doing anthology number two soon. Don't know when we're going to do that yet, but Eon City Burnout was the first one in that.
Oh,
It's going to
cool.
end up being a trilogy. Jeneth also did the cover for that. Um, and so we learned a lot by doing it with our group first, but we weren't in
Right.
charge of it, so we didn't get any of the, hey, this artist has another Kickstarter coming out. We didn't
Oh,
get all of that. So it was like, okay, we're starting from scratch. We ended up um, I say in air quotes, about $600. That was kind of our goal. We didn't hit any of our um, extra goals or anything like that. But we basically paid for the cover, and that
mm,
was what really mattered, was to be able to recoup that cost. So we did end up losing some money on it. It was a great educational experience. We intend to do it again, hopefully with better marketing next
that's the
time.
thing. Like, I think a lot of
Hmm.
people, I mean, if you happen to have your book out that day that Brandon Sanderson made 1 million and then went and funded everyone, well, then you're lucky, right? But that is
Hmm.
not the typical.
Yeah.
I ran a Kickstarter and it was a great educational experience, but
Hmm.
it is you better be really good at your data and like
Hmm.
really good at um preparing for
Right.
all the
Right.
things. Like, you have to really have a real good sheet of like
Hmm.
everything that's going to cost you money. And I'm in a
Hmm.
Kickstarter group on Facebook, and I can't tell you how many times people come back and are like, "Are you serious? I made no money." It's like,
Hmm.
yeah, like
Hmm.
it's expensive.
It
It's
is. Yeah. I mean, our goal was to recoup the cost of doing the cover. I think Jenith last year was $550. So we basically covered that
right.
and a
And it's
little
a
bit
great
more.
cover. So good
Yeah,
job.
I mean, I'm happy with it. Honestly still thrilled with it. It's probably one of my favorites that I've had done. Um, but we didn't make any extra. We didn't,
Right.
didn't even make
Yeah.
enough money to go out to dinner and have, a
Yeah.
celebration or anything. Um, but we're going to learn off of that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we come back to do the next book, hopefully by this time next year, I have a lot of this time next year books right now. Um,
Yes, me too.
uh, I'm hoping that we will have built our foundation a little bit deeper and
Okay.
be able to um, do better next time.
Do
So
you think it was people on, that you were marketing to that they didn't really understand what Kickstarter was, or do you think it was just like not talking about it enough?
a little bit of that, a little bit of people didn't understand Kickstarter. I was uh, telling people at my job that, hey, I have a Kickstarter. Well, it's a Kickstarter. And I had
Mm,
to, sit there and explain to them. And it's like, people that, are our age or older and don't really understand apps and stuff, they had absolutely no idea what I was even talking about.
yeah. Yeah.
And I had other,
That's true.
yeah. So I think a lot of people don't understand the concept of Kickstarter, which is unfortunate because you get a lot of cool ideas and cool inventions
Yes.
from there. Um, But then we definitely did not do the marketing like we should have. Unfortunately, I lost my mailing list information during my divorce because I couldn't afford to pay for it.
Yeah.
And missed, emails that were like, "Hey, MailChimp needs you to log in or do whatever," and completely missed it.
Oh, that's
But
right. That's around when MailChimp revamped themselves and everyone got
hmm
mad at them. Like
yeah,
they did
yeah,
a terrible job at that point too.
yeah.
But like
So
the whole world was imploding. Like what a bad
hmm
time for them to do that
right,
and not give some
right.
leeway.
Yeah, so it's like I lost my entire mailing list, so I've been trying to redevelop that on Substack, but I
Right.
probably lost a lot of people that I may never get back, which,
Yeah. Yeah.
that it is what it is. So, I didn't have as firm a foundation as I should have had in order to run the Kickstarter.
Okay.
So again, it's a learning process.
Yeah.
We're
We
gonna
got
do
to
better
learn
next time.
stuff.
Yeah, we're
We
gonna do
can't,
better next time.
yeah, I'm so much about like learning. I
Hmm.
mean, there's only so much learning you can do by listening to other people. You have to
Hmm.
do it, right? Like you have
Right.
to get your hands dirty. And I mean, I would say approach it cautiously because there are some people
Hmm.
who do things that are just like, I'm going to make this book cover velvet and I'm going to do this and
Hmm.
I need
Hmm.
$20,000. And it's like, you can't start
Yeah.
out that way unless you really have
Right.
a great foundation. So start out cautiously, learn from it.
Hmm. Yeah.
But what do you think you need as a starting point? Like, what would you love to have, like, as far as like mailing lists or subscribers for the next one?
I would love to have, at least 100 people that are on my Substack regularly. I don't put out things very often. I am so busy that I'm just scatterbrained. My ADHD
Mhm.
takes over and it's like, oh wait, it's been since August since I sent out, a lengthier note on my Substack. I should probably get to that.
Yeah,
Things like that. I need to be more consistent with that. I think at least 100 people would be great. If I could even get, half of those, I think it'd be a hugely successful thing. I also know we set our bar too low. So like
oh, you
I
think
think
it's too low? Okay.
so, we should have had our, this is where we fund at. I think we should have had it at like $1,000. We were told at the time, do it, enough to cover the cost of the cover, which was about 600. We barely cleared that. Like we had somebody back out 2 days before the end of our Kickstarter and put us down below what we
Right.
needed. And it's like, oh
Right.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Um, but also we've learned that we should have had our overall pricing higher. and not do digital rewards. And it's like, okay, well, if we're just doing physical rewards, okay, great. Do we do extras and, stickers or, all of those things? We have to make those decisions for the next time. And, the next time we'll have two books that we can bundle together and be like, hey,
Mhm.
you missed out on the first one. Get, a two for, $70
Right,
or
right,
whatever.
right. That's true.
So so, I mean, we'll be able to build on what we've got, but it's going to be a process. And
Yeah.
I'm not I mean, I hope that we make $10,000 or something enough that I can take a few days off work, but
It's a
uh,
numbers game though, really.
yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
like, and that's why I love Joanna Penn. She's so honest about it, where she's
Hmm.
like, you know, she always tells everyone, I've been doing the podcast for over a decade. I
Oh,
have
yeah.
a list of like 10,000 something. Like
Hmm.
in the end, it is a numbers game.
It
I think
is.
now that more people know Kickstarter, honestly, you can find some super cool things, like
Hmm.
so cool on
Yeah.
Kickstarter. People should use it as a shopping
Yeah.
point. It's so
I
fun.
I just ordered on Kickstarter, my husband spotted some metal dice for D&D. And
So cool.
so it's like I'm looking at them like those are kind of cool. And yeah, I probably dropped more than I needed to on metal dice, and hopefully they come here in the next few days.
It's a
But
Father's Day gift. It's fine, you know.
yeah, since I bought one for me, though, I can't count it as a Father's Day. I've already been given that warning.
Oh geez. I mean, I just think it's cool. I bought
Yeah.
a really cool pen, and I think yeah, as time goes on, people will understand it more. Um
Hmm.
and yeah, but you gotta try it. You have to try
Hmm.
it. And I'm glad that you
Yeah.
didn't just, lose 20,000. I just
Oh, yeah.
sometimes with people, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe
Yeah.
them. You
Yeah. We
know.
we set our goals pretty modest. And I it was both a good thing and a bad thing that we
Hmm.
had low goals because we didn't know what to expect the first time out. We had just come off of the Kickstarter for Eon City Burnout, and it had done really well. And we had hoped we could get some of the buyers from that over to our stuff.
Mm,
And, because there's nine of us in that, and my husband's in that one as well. And, we thought, okay, we've got at least six of us are pretty prolific. We've got at least six of us that have at least five, six books out each. Steve Raza, I don't know even how many books he has out, but it's got to be at least 30 or something. But, we kind of hoped to pull off of that, and it didn't happen as much as we had hoped. So
yeah.
there just
Yeah.
wasn't enough cross-pollination. So,
Yeah. There is something, the more I think of like kind of where the industry is going and what we have to do, and I think we have to be really not pushy but kind of adamant about like,
hmm.
I really need you to share this on your list.
Hmm.
Would you please be willing to do it? And then be,
Yeah.
willing to do it when it comes, payback time,
Hmm.
basically. Like I will do
Right.
it. And it just, but it requires some organization that doesn't come
Hmm.
naturally to me. Like I have
Yeah.
to remember to do it.
Hmm.
You can't be shy about it. You have to ask
Yeah.
people, and
Yeah.
I am shy about it. And I
I I hear you on that. I'm very I wouldn't say I'm necessarily private, but I'm definitely introverted about sharing about what's some of my important things. So my
right,
books, it's been one of those struggles that I've had over the 12 years that I've been publishing. It's like I'm hesitant to share it, but I know that if I don't, nobody is going to see it.
right.
So then I'm not very good at it. And it's like, well, this ought to do, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's that inner tug of war. I could share
Hmm.
your books all day long, but it's a
Hmm.
takes a real inner
Yeah.
push.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but I really think it is one of the places we're gonna have to go. And because it's a
Hmm.
numbers game, asking people to share. It's just like,
Hmm.
which is so
Yeah.
silly. Like if people ask me, I am more than happy to share their stuff. But
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
some reason, the ask feels big. So
Hmm.
anyway, it's just one of those
Yeah.
things. Hopefully we'll get some people over to your Substack. If this was sci-fi or was it straight thriller? This
For
the wave of disruption.
Wave of Disruption. So another funny story on that one. That one's actually set in the same world as Darby Shaw. It's just in the 1960s. So it's
Oh,
alternate
nice.
history with superhumans. And it's at a time in the timeline where superhumans are not known to the general population. And so there's a little bit of military. So the premise of the book is that a plane has crashed in Colorado Springs. It's January 1962. And there's something hinky about the plane crash. So the Army, it was an Army, I think it was an Air Force plane. It's been a while since I've wrote it, but it was an Air Force plane because they've got a big Air Force Academy just north of Colorado Springs out there. And this plane crashes in a civilian area. And there had been uh, not, can't find the right word, interference in the radio transmissions. And
Okay.
they didn't know why. Um, there is a division in the Army intelligence essentially, that understands that there's something else out there, that they are aware of these mutants that are out there. And so they send the colonel that's in charge of the division in Utah sends gets a hold of the guy that my husband was primarily writing. Kane is, I think at the time he's a major, um, Major Kane, and sends him to investigate with two Army, I think they're captains at the time, and a woman, Vanessa, and then a representative from the Brits, Captain Fox. What Kane doesn't know is that both Fox and Vanessa are mutants. So, and they're trying to protect the mutant community. So it's this back and forth, even though they're, all
Yeah.
on the same side with the army. And it was a lot of fun to write. But my
Mm.
husband, when we were not even together yet, he came to me with this idea to write the books. And it was like things fell apart because it was like he came to me with the idea like maybe 2 weeks before lockdown hit in March of 2020. And I'm like, this is a great idea. And I knew I was kind of looking at my marriage at the time and being like, I don't think that I'm going to have time for this, but
Mm.
you work on developing this and we'll figure it out because it's still in the same world as Darby Shaw. Um, and we ended up both getting divorced at basically the same time, and he moved down to Kansas City, and about the time we started dating, we're like, okay, well, now is the time to, revisit this story. So while we're dating, and then in the early months of our marriage, we're writing this story together.
That's so
and
funny.
and he's autistic. He's level 2 autistic. So that's an interesting thing when you're trying to explain certain things to an autistic man. Why you can't do things this way. So
I can do whatever I want. It's-
sometimes that's his attitude. Considering that we're married and writing together,
Yeah, that's a
it's a
lot.
balancing act. Yeah, it's a balancing act. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's how that story came together. Yeah, it's alt history. We're writing the second book on that one right now. It is set in Florida, um, around John Glenn's launch of Mercury 7. So
Oh, fun. So you get some
yeah.
history in there too.
Yeah, I'm a
And
big NASA nerd. So, I mean, I know bigger NASA nerds, but I'm huge into the Apollo program and everything.
yeah.
So it's really fun for me because I've done a lot of reading about, the astronauts and their personalities from the Mercury program. And it's like, oh, this is so much fun. And
Oh, cool.
it's like I've got all the big names on screen, and it's like, I'm having so much fun with this.
Nice. I love that. So if people follow you on Substack, they'll know when that's coming out. They'll be able to
Yeah.
get the info on the Kickstarter and get the first one up. Okay, very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So I've had to set it aside for a little bit. I kind of came back to it in the last few weeks writing on it, but we're maybe right around the halfway mark, I think, right now. So about
Fun.
40,000 words in.
Nice. I love that. That'll be really fun to I like that point of time in history. I think a lot of
Hmm.
things happened, and it can be a really fun time to explore
Yeah.
again.
It's
Uh,
also interesting because you get to kind of think, okay, so if Kennedy doesn't get shot in
that's right. It's an
1963,
alternative universe.
yeah, it's like, what would happen if? So we're having those discussions, and that's probably 4 or 5 books down the line right now, but I'm already having fun thinking that through and
Nice.
and so yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Well, we will
Mhm.
have your links in the show notes so that people can go
Awesome.
join your Substack and they can follow and read up. They can catch up on all the other books while you guys still work on that one. But thank you so much,
Yeah.
Liberty, for coming on the show and talking to us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was great to hang out with you today.